Does this need to be on TV here or?
Yeah.
Trying to get in the gate, he can't get in.
Rob should be, is he out here now?
I think Rob just went out that way, Craig, and he may have got locked out.
Oh, Rob went down to the gate or whatever.
Tina, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're live.
We're live? All right. It is 6:01, Tuesday, January the 9th, 2024. I will call the Keystone Heights Airport Authority Board meeting to order. Ask everyone to please stand for prayer and then pledge of allegiance. Britton, will you do prayer for us?
Thank you, Chair Kirkland. Heavenly Father, we're so encouraged to be able to come together and fellowship and do your will in our lives as we work together to forward the progress at the Keystone Heights Airport. We ask you to bless the people on this board, Lord, give them discernment, give them understanding and wisdom as we move forward in all this, and we keep the eyes most importantly focused on your Son, who is the greatest blessing of all. In Jesus' name, we ask all this. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Rick, you have a roll call list?
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Kirkland,
Present.
Mr. Fryer.
Here.
Mr. Dagenet.
Here.
Mr. Ludwig.
Here.
Mr. Van Zant.
Here.
Mr. Seamer.
Here. All right, we'll let the record show that we do have a quorum tonight. And any public comment cards?
No, I just had Mr. Corning on the list.
Okay. Yeah, he and I talked earlier. He is tied up with emergency management issues.
okay,
Will not
gotcha.
be able to make the meeting tonight.
That's fine, yeah.
So we're going to move forward on beyond that. You had received in the digital packet that was sent out a few days ago the consent agenda, which consists of approving the November 2023 financials, also approval of the December the 5th, 2023 Keystone Heights Airport Authority Board meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
One correction on the minutes, and it was the way I said it, I guess, about fertilizer. It was supposed to be 20-5-10 instead of 25-10. So that was the only
Gotcha.
thing on it. Other than that, I'll make the motion with that exception.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the minor changes Mr. Seamer just brought up. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ludwig. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next, moving on to reports. Mr. Prane, do you have an update for us?
Yes, good evening and Happy New Year, if I haven't already told you that. Got an update on the runway 1129 lighting project. They've made quite a bit of headway. Rain has hindered them for sure. And they took off a week at Christmas. So that slowed them down a bit. I would guess probably by the 26th of January, we'll be up and running full speed. They forecasted the Friday before, but I'm building in a buffer there because I think we're going to have at least 2 more days of rain between now and then. They still have 3 signs to install. The lights are up and operating. They've been burning the lights in from time to time, which means the regulator is connected and operating. They still have some cleanup work to do. Again, the rain has not been their friend, and they're working down there in the wet hole that stays wet. So, so a little longer than we expected on construction. I'll probably make arrangements for week after next to have the DOT come out and do their punch list inspection. And I've had my inspector here this week. I didn't get out there today because it was raining too hard and I was worried about melting. So I didn't inspect it today, being honest, y'all. I decided to stay right here, but I'll send Don back later in the week to take another look at what they're doing. Anybody have any questions on that project? We have two other things going on in the background. There's really nothing to report on the utility feasibility report, but does anybody have a question on that? We're working on addressing some comments from Clay County Utility Authority. We should have a final report with some cost estimates mid-February, I would think. We'll be close to wrapping that whole thing up, I would hope, by March 1st. Putting that in the record book. And there's a lingering closeout. I met with Craig today. We've got a final change order negotiated with the contractor that did the taxi lane rehab, middle of 2023. So I have a final change order to reconcile all their final costs. I'm going to work in the next 2 weeks to get FAA and FDOT to approve that. And I'll plan to have that back for your next board meeting for your review. So we'll be closing that project out, I would think, in the next 3 months. The work's all done. We're just doing the financial closeout and all of the record keeping, closing out the water management district permit, et cetera. I looked at the agenda. I didn't really see anything down the list that's engineering related. So unless anybody has any questions, gonna move towards Live Oak.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
We're projecting to burn the infield the last of January. Do I have any concerns about the lighting or anything when I burn that?
What's been the practice? Do you let it burn all the way to the pavement edge?
This would be the first time I've done it, but I don't know how they've done it in the past.
It's been so long since it has been done. I don't recall. They typically bring a crew, so they will keep it off the runway. I mean, obviously, it will burn up to the runway. Most of our fixtures already have weed killer.
Yeah.
Not a lot of weeds around all of those fixtures now.
It's pretty shortly mown too, isn't it?
So,
Yeah, and we're gonna have to mow it short before we burn it.
No, there'd be no concerns with that.
Okay.
There's no exposed wiring or wiring insulation that would be compromised.
Okay.
So
Just a
no
question.
concerns about that.
523's runway edge lighting is on the pavement. And 1129 is going to be wet enough down there. I doubt anything will burn
Yes,
anyway.
that way.
Taxiway Bravo would probably be, and Charlie would be the only threats. But like you say, I think
But the crew would help,
they'll
Yeah.
manage that.
yeah.
yeah, they always have. Back to the feasibility study, just for information, at the city council meeting yesterday afternoon, there was a presentation that touched on some issues dealing with sewer. So I'm sure that although Ms. Lynn has been aware and the city's been aware of the feasibility study, and she's been copied on all of that every time there's been an update, but once that's completed, we'll have to make sure the new city manager, is in that information loop of where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they have known, it wasn't a surprise when we identified that the existing plant is probably handling the capacity now, but with a lot of the proposed growth, it's going to get over capacity pretty quickly. I think CCUA is aware of that. I don't know if they have any plans to expand it, but it is an expandable sewer plant.
There was a brief discussion about the fact that this particular study had taken into account some of the developments that they felt pretty sure were going to come into existence. And with that, and the airport part wasn't even mentioned, but even with that, I think there was already some speculation that they would have to increase the capacity of what they have based on just what's projected for the city.
Yeah. Yes, so just if I could,
There's 496 residents that we found out within the city that are not connected to the sewer system, so.
So when we first scoped our study, it was for the airport property. And, we planned obviously to communicate with CCUA about bringing water to this location on State Road 100, point to the wrong place, right here. And of course, taking sewer back that way. Both of those are in the vicinity of, what do you call that? Speedway, Speedville?
Speedville.
Yeah, so there's connections in that vicinity for both of those systems. One of the things CCUA asked us to do, Maria, the city, and CCUA provided the data. We didn't generate the data, but there's a number of, I'll just call them developments, both commercial and residential developments proposed between your airport entrance and town proper. So we accounted for that just in tabulating flows. You can take a house or an office building, and based on the size, you can estimate, based on the state standards, water usage and sewer flow. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I'm pretty sure when you look at what the airport's gonna generate for sewer and what the airport will need for potable water, it's a very small fraction of what the rest of that development will need. So we do need to be served, and the report is to demonstrate that, but I think the larger part that needs to be served is the area between your entrance and town proper, and the rate at which any of that land develops along that corridor of the roadway. We didn't try to put a timeline on when those other off-airport developments would occur. We just put them in the tabulation. So, and any of the board members that want to read the most recent report, I did a big data dump for Craig when he got here, just to say, hey, we're in the middle of a utility study. Here's all the documents. If you haven't already, you can pass that along to anyone. It's not really exciting reading, but if you want to brief it and kind of pause at the tables and the graphics, you can get a sense for that. One recent comment, since you brought it up, it's not to be dealt with now. I think it's to be acknowledged in the report, parked and dealt with in the future. But when we started the study, CCUA gave us the guidance that they would want individual parcels metered. Everybody at the airport would become a customer. They have since adopted a slightly different policy from their board, which incorporates the concept of, if you will, master metering. So they've asked us to acknowledge that in the future, when the project gets designed and developed, that master metering, meaning 1 meter water and sewer meter for the airport, might be the way they would prefer. I don't know if it has to do more with just administrative management of 1 meter and 1 charge versus 40, but in terms of this capacity of pipes, sizing of pipes and routing, it doesn't change any of that. It just changes whether you put in multiple meters or a single meter. So we've just addressed it in the narrative, and it's not a decision that has to be made now. It's incrementally, it's a small cost to do it one way or the other. So we're revising the last part, the last technical memo, revising that to address their comment to say it could be done this way, could be done that way. Doesn't have to be decided now.
Do you recall if we had included Bradford County's manager in a lot of this documentation? If not, let's add Scott Cornegate to that email listing, simply because so much of that is in the Bradford County portion. And
I don't think they've been copied on any of they weren't a stakeholder when we started,
right,
but certainly no problem with document sharing.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Prang?
Anybody else?
I'd just like to say, thank you to Don.
Yep.
He brought us some light bases from Gainesville Airport's project that they were gonna toss. So we've got more additional runway lighting parts in our inventory, thanks to him. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think he salvaged those from where they would have otherwise been discarded.
Right.
So,
Well, those pieces are expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it adds up, so.
Thank you, Mr. Prang.
Thank you.
Be safe traveling.
Thanks very much.
All right, moving forward, Ms. Whitney is not with us tonight. First item on my list of items is an update on the audit RFP. Craig had sent out RFPs to 3 different CPA firms requesting information on doing the audit and also the non-attest portions of an audit. We thank you, Charlie, for the contact information for Purvis and Gray. They did respond. And based on looking at what their request, their proposal was, they were at 42.5 for all of it, to do everything that Reddish and White has been doing. Reddish and White's number is 31.5. So given that, and we never heard back from the other two firms, there's never a response back from those who were reputable firms. I mean, I guess, of course, we've heard it that everybody's busy. And so,
Evidently, being a governmental auditor is not the most sexy or lucrative way. I mean, I have a good friend that was a CPA. He's over at Jack's Beach, and he's like, well, Purvis and Gray engaged, well, I think they could do that. But, sometimes you get those bids that they give you a cost like, if I'm going to do it, you're really going to try to do it.
right. So, given that and the fact that we had already approved moving forward with our audit, because we have to do that, I signed a letter of engagement with Reddish and White. Craig got an email today from Annie with Reddish and White, who will be heading up that audit for us this year. So she's already requested some documents, and Lori will provide financials, everything that they need that they've done before. So I did call Brad Million, who is with Reddish and White. He does the audit. Just asking him if he had any other companies, and he didn't. He said he would be glad to share it. And he did give us some names that we actually used, but
They didn't respond either.
no. So anyway, that's the update there. So we're moving forward. Craig and Lori will be busy getting a lot of financial data for them, and that process will get started. My second item is Rural Counties Day. Craig and I are going to be attending Tallahassee on the 24th and 25th. It's a time that we want to meet with as many legislators as possible, in particular the ones that are in our area. Representative Brannon, Bobby Payne, Senator Bradley, Representative Garrison, just to name four that I know of that we've met with previously and made them aware that we do have the appropriations request. Craig received a request from Chuck Brannon's legislative aide. There's an attest form that we've got to complete and get back to him before next Tuesday. So we'll get that done. But the rule days and clay days, actually clay day is 17th and 18th, yeah. Correct, Charlie? The goal there is with the legislators in session to try to carve out some time to meet with them. You really get to do that at a late afternoon, evening reception time. That's really the best time to get with them and just make them aware of how important our request is and get their support to get it pushed through committee and then get in front of the governor and on the budget. Any questions about that? All right. I have an update on the firm appraisal. If you recall, we had approved hiring an appraiser to appraise the 285 acres that is one of the major lease that the firm has with the airport. That appraisal has been completed, and I didn't scroll all the way down. Craig, just remind me, was that in the digital packet? Did you include that?
Yes, I did.
So it's 50-something plus pages, and anyways, if you want to look that over, what the appraiser had done is looked at the properties and looked at only the ground property. Otherwise, the buildings and all the improvements that the firm has made over there were not included. they were acknowledged and they were recorded as being there, but as far as coming up with a rent value, it was just the real estate portion of the 285 acres. So with that information, we are meeting, Craig and I will be meeting with Jim Taylor to look at the existing lease. Craig has also been meeting with the FAA and some compliance officers with them, having them look over the documents. So that process has started. And the deadline, well, the lease ends May 31st of this year. So our plan is to meet with our attorney, the FAA, get a strategic plan in place, and then meet with the firm representatives and move forward from there. Any questions about those three items? All right. Mr. Fryer, airfield update.
Okay, the grass has quit growing for the most part. The weeds continue. Justin and I have been working down here at the west end of the field on the old, the prior leaseor. And we had a mound of sand or fill dirt that had been provided by Clay Electric at a previous board member's request. So it has become an island. There were trees growing in it. So we have knocked that dirt down and we're using it to fill, I call it the 8-second rodeo ride down in that section. It's just like this where they removed all the trees from over there over the years. So anyway, we've been working on that. We did between Rob, and has everybody met Rob on the board? I didn't know if y'all had met yet. Rob, Justin, and I this morning moved airplanes we could into Mr. Bailey's hangar just to get them out of the weather for this storm. Justin and I were just kind of working in the shop, cleaning things up. And of course, the lighting project, I have been out there and seen the runway lights illuminated. It looks really good. They've done a very good job. I'm a little amazed at those ones that are embedded. They are very bright. I don't know if they can be dimmed. I don't know what the effect will be, on approaches.
I think they're just like the other lights. They have a low, medium, high, based on the pilot control
They
lighting.
look good. You can see them from a long ways. Another interesting feature that the contractor told us about is the new PAPI lights, precision approach path indicators, will be LED on 1129. And they installed them at another customer's airport, and he said you can see them from 13 miles away.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So I don't, that wouldn't be with weather included, but on a clear night,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have any problem finding Keystone Airport's glide path. The only other thing I'd like to add, and I'm sure Craig will expound upon it, but they have been selling a tremendous amount of jet fuel, so I hope you bring that up when it comes to your point. Good job. And that's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Dropping down to Mr. Van Zant.
Okay, so the Keystone Centennial Committee, I mentioned this last month, and we meet on the 18th at the not the 18th, yes, the 18th, and I'll be in Tallahassee. Beach Pavilion at 10 a.m. If any of you would like to attend, you're more than welcome. It's just a non-profit group that Councilman Hart helped organize and get all the nonprofit paperwork together. But Keystone Heights, the city, turns 100 in 2025. It's established in 1925. So different groups, Rotary, Kiwanis, church groups, American Legion, all kinds of different groups will be doing events throughout the entire year of 2025. So the kickoff extravaganza, the will of the 5-member board of the Centennial Committee, which is called Friends of Keystone, is actually the nonprofit name, would like to have that here at the Keystone Airport and commence around noon and go to about 6 o'clock. So
On what date?
You're saying the kickoff of that celebration?
31st, 2024.
Okay.
So to kick the thing off, There was talk of something akin to the mayor's ball, which was a very formal event that we've hosted out here in the past. But so that is just a warning order that's likely coming to an airport near you with whatever hoops they need to jump through. And I just never want to be the guy holding information. That's as much as I know right now.
Do you know if there, is there a fundraising effort to fund these events?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Because when they had the mayor's ball here, that hangar over there was vacant, and that's where we hosted it at.
Right.
And now we don't have any structure. I don't know if they'd be able to rent a big tent or how that would work.
Well, one of the things is going to be the Clay County Swing Band. Mr. Hart's part of that. There was talk of like from 12 to 3, have more carnival, family-friendly, kids kind of stuff. And then this always is bizarre to me, but you know, I'm not in charge of nothing. Have a more adult-friendly, attractive event in the later in the afternoon and serve alcohol. So, you know, every time I ever mixed alcohol with aviators, it was not ever good. So we will continue to work through those details and keep you informed.
So in conjunction with that, Councilman Tony Brown asked me last night about hosting, which we've done before too, the North Florida League of Cities dinner. And again, we had done it down at one of the big hangars, so we had plenty of room, and they came in with all of the logistics and chairs and whatever and catering. I shared with him, it's like Mr. Fryer said, we don't have any vacant hangars of large capacity right now. And apparently there was some discussion about could they come off the porch, our front porch, which is the apron side, with a huge tent that would go out onto the apron for a little bit of distance anyway to accommodate. So that was one of the ideas. So of all the dinners they hold, when they have it here at the airport, it's the most well-attended event for the year. It's just, people really enjoy coming out here. So we set the standard high a few years ago when we were able to do the mayor's ball here and some other events like that. But we had a vacant hangar that we could accommodate that. So I know that's coming up in February, I think is what Tony said. So
It's one of those organizations I'm now obligated to do.
I started to say, you're going to hear more about this. You will be very involved with this. So just a heads up on that one. That's a little more short term than the 100-year centennial. So, but anything, I think our board's in agreement that anything that we can do to help host any part of that event, we certainly want to be a part of it. We'll have either a board member to be attending those meetings to stay abreast of that progress, or Craig could attend them as well. So we look forward to it. Let us know what we can do.
If one of y'all would like to attend next Thursday, I won't be there, but you will be more than welcome. It'll be in the beach pavilion.
What time? What was
10 a.m.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Van Zant?
I've enjoyed serving for a short amount of time on this board again. I think you're all fine gentlemen and scholars, and leaving Keystone, I'm just going to be headquartered downtown, and we'll come out here probably extend our meeting still.
So if you haven't heard, Charlie was selected as the new city manager. And so this will be his last night serving on our board. And on behalf of our board, we appreciate your service and your time, the short time you've been here, plus all the previous times you served. And we appreciate your interest in the airport and look forward to some really great things happening in the future, working with you as a city manager. I think you're gonna do a great job, great asset for the city. All right, Mr. Seamer,
Yes, sir. Just, something that I couldn't put on here because I hadn't talked to him, but, Mr. Scott, Carlton Scott, the state forester, he called me and he is almost finished with the master plan. He had some things come up and kind of put him behind. So I don't have the master plan yet, but he's hoping to get it to me shortly. But the one thing that I do want to bring up is to make a motion to either have a separate account or budget line item for any harvest of the timber to go into. I know in 21 there was, I think it was $86,000 worth of timber sold. In 22 there was a line item for $68,000 for replanting, and no trees have been replanted. And I guess that money just went to wherever. So I would like to make a motion to set aside all proceeds from any harvesting of timber into a separate account to be used only for reforestation or other conservation projects at the discretion of the conservation chair and voted on by the board.
all right, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? I have some discussion.
I second it.
All right. Number one, we already have a line item in our budget.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Is that under income or what's that?
it's under timber sales. So there's a line item for that.
I haven't seen it on the budget.
I'm looking for it now.
It's on your sheet. It's in your financials that you've got. Look on the first page, down at the bottom, right under total miscellaneous other income.
Oh, there it is. It is right. I'll just show it to you.
Okay.
So if we have sales, it gets entered under that line item.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I missed it, so, all right.
All right. I'm opposed to your motion for the following reasons. We have an account, we have a line item for the income. Until we see a master plan and what the ROI is for that, I don't think it's wise for this board to move in that direction right now without a plan. The other monies that we have used in the past, it was because we had bills that had to be paid. And that's why that money apparently was put aside for reforestation, wasn't used. Those are just my concerns. I think there needs to be a hard look. I'd really like to see what a master plan. Not sure how that person would have a crystal ball to show future return on investment. So that's my biggest concern with moving, with approving your motion for that. I mean, we have the line item for the income.
But we don't have a line item for reforestation and for replanting. And if we keep cutting and we don't replant, we won't have any replanting on the cut.
Well, and that's my reason for saying that we need a plan and we need some sort of prediction, if you will, or projection, because I don't know that the ROI is there.
If I may speak, there was some discussion at one time about trying to set aside about 30% or maybe 35% for replanting. And I think that probably would be wise to take it all and lock it up. And I think part of your motion too was that you would have, or that chair would have the sole discretion as to how that money would be spent, would not follow the board rules.
Correct.
We'd have to vote as a board.
I had that on there. I said that.
Well, maybe I misheard you, I don't.
And voted on by the board.
Okay. But I could see, and I think the idea of coming up with that plan is a good idea, but I'd like to see a percentage of it, if we could, set aside. So I'm kind of halfway there with you, but not completely.
Well,
I agree.
I can hold off on the motion until I get the master plan. But if we keep removing trees and we don't replant,
Right.
then we don't have anything.
No, we've got to look at it, definitely.
So,
And the wild forest just takes over where you had the other.
right, and then that becomes a management nightmare because you can't get in there and do anything with it.
How long do you think it'll be before they have that master plan come up with?
I talked to him a couple of days ago and, or I say a couple of days ago, I guess it was Friday. And he's working on it. And it's also, besides, we had been removed from being a timber farm because we didn't follow the rules.
Okay.
He's adding us back into it with this master plan and a stewardship also.
Removed from where?
What does that mean, stewardship?
Added back where? You said
To being a
remove
tree farm?
timber farm.
To being a tree farm?
The tree farm had, because we hadn't done the things that we were supposed to do, whatever it is, I don't know.
That's a designation we lost?
Yeah,
Something?
A designation with who?
forestry,
Department of Agriculture probably.
Department of Agriculture?
yeah.
Something.
And the stewardship program is basically being a good steward of the land and everything. And it's not that we have to spend anything, it doesn't cost us anything, but it does help us get grants to do different things.
Get some resources through.
Right.
For having proper land.
Could I make a
Does it
suggestion?
sound like he'll have that plan available next meeting?
Should. He was gonna have it to me before this meeting, and then stuff come up and, and he just couldn't get it done.
Does he have documentation of what we were supposed to have done that didn't get done?
I didn't ask him that. I didn't ask him anything about it. He just mentioned that we had been, he went back and looked and found where we had been, and then we got dropped for whatever reason. And he didn't specifically say. And he said, but when I do the master plan, you will be added back as a tree farm. So.
Are there stipulations to be designated a tree farm?
I think it's about the management of it, keeping it burned, replanting, and stuff like that.
Any number of acres associated with it? Did he say, or is it
He
just?
didn't go into specifics on it. I guess it'd be in the master plan when he writes it.
So that'll be good to be educated on that when he gets that done.
Yeah.
So you want to withdraw your motion until we get the plan?
Until we get the plan.
I'd like to also make a suggestion in that once you get that master plan, maybe we could have a workshop later, maybe in the spring or something.
To be educated
That
on
way we could, we could be educated and we can talk more in depth.
And he said he would come to a board meeting.
I think a workshop would even be better.
And-
It'd be the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way we could have a good Q&A with him about his proposals and then.
the ins and outs of it.
Because here's the other thing too, Mr. Senior, he probably needs to have a copy of is our master plan, the airport master plan. And although probably the majority of the silviculture area, it's listed that way, as silviculture. But just so he would know about the other developments, for example, over on 1129.
Oh, yeah.
All of that,
I talked to him about that and about the, RMH,
MHD Rockland.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Those three initials,
And one of those
one of
things.
those companies.
And MHD Rockland, where they were going and everything, and the possibility of moving the fence in, and I talked to him about that. So, but he was like, yeah, if you're going to clear cut everything as much as you can, because you're going to get a better bid from people instead of a 10-acre tract or a 20-acre tract. And I went back before the computer that I got kind of went crazy and I couldn't do anything with it anymore, and read some of the stuff that, of where they'd sold in different tracts and the bid contracts and all that.
I believe I saw those on the server. I think you
Yeah,
got those
they were
moved
on-
over on the servers
they
though.
were.
He was just having issues accessing the server.
Okay.
Yeah, and so anyway, it was, it's not like they're gone, I just couldn't get through it with my computer.
Okay.
For the sake-
Looking forward to that, to the master plan.
And then, as I said earlier, if it quits raining in January, and we get it dry to keep the weeds down and everything, we need to first mow it low. And then, he said that they wouldn't come out because the runways, we're not burning any piles or anything, we're just burning grass. He said they wouldn't even come out for that.
Really?
I thought they had come before.
They have.
This is forestry, right?
Yeah.
They've done controlled burns for us before with that
they
love
have.
grass.
Can I say something? They've been here 3 times, but I've been here, done that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah, and typically, it's, well, he may have told you, I don't know, you had to have at least 2 frosts and, a lot of other things have to come
2
into play,
freezing
humidity,
periods of-
wind direction, wind speed. Yeah, they've done that before.
I'll call him again and talk to him and just to find out, but I asked him about it, he said, no, I don't, just call the day that you're going to burn.
The only other problem we'll have is, we're not gonna be able to get into that infield now. In this triangular,
Right.
section up in here.
Yeah.
The amount of water we've had.
Right.
Like I said,
It'll be sunk in there. But we can mow the perimeter of it. I believe we could do
you
that.
know, if, as much as we can burn to help you with the weeds,
Yep.
I'm a registered burner,
Right.
with the Florida Forestry. So all I have to do is just call them up and say, this is what I'm doing, and 2 pieces of equipment.
And then you do the burn yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, when we do that, and it's needed, it's been, goodness, 3 years, 4 years probably since it's been done. The staff has done a great job with mowing to keep the love grass knocked down. We still got some of it this year, but it is what it is. But we probably need some heads up on that particular date, Rex, only because Craig needs to send out an email to all the tenants just to make them aware.
Right.
Because of smoke and
Notems.
probably, NOTAMs. Probably be a good idea to notify Bradford County, Fire Rescue,
I will, I mean.
Clay County.
I'll do all that, everything, but
Just things we need to probably make a checklist to
the biggest thing
have in
is
place.
we get a little dry.
That's what you're gonna be praying for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I agree with Mr. Kirkland. I know there were several years they tried it. They weren't able to do it because it's like 2 or 3 nights in a row they want it freezing. I think they were in a row. That they want, I guess it dehydrates the vegetation and kills it back some. So I think we're in that El Nino cycle back. So I think it's gonna be a wet winter. Might not be able to do it, but certainly we could benefit from it if you can pull it off.
definitely benefit from it.
Can it even be done in February or, I mean,
It can, but it again, it depends on the weather. because if it's already starting to sprout up the grass and you went in there and burned it,
Oh, that's true.
it would kill it.
Yep, okay.
While it's dormant,
That's the best time.
that's the time to do it. And so if it, you know, you could probably go into the first week of February without a problem.
But it does have a window.
But, yes.
It's gonna be optimal, okay.
And it doesn't have to be exactly the last week. If we see it's going to be dry for a while, you know, on a 10-day outlook, I'll call and let you know, and we can send it out and get it done. But it's all up to the weather.
Right.
Yeah, all you can do is try. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's better than what we've had the last few years, because it's just, we hadn't been able to do it. All right, very good.
Oh, Mr. Britton's got his hand up.
Oh, yes, sir.
I know it says infield burning project. Is there any thoughts on the exterior edges of the taxiways? Take the weeds down that are there.
That'd be a little risky, I think, around structures, but that's just my opinion. We keep it mowed back pretty well, as you know, and, you know, the weeds, they're amazing, you know. The one thing you don't want to grow, you can't kill. Even, I read an article about this glyphosate or whatever. They're finding now through studies that the weeds are becoming immune to it. And they're having to change formulas almost like you do with pesticides. But I think that'd be a little risky getting on this side of the taxiway over here. Certainly on the infield side of the taxiway, we could probably do between the runway and the taxiway, you think? I mean, I would think we could do that.
It would certainly be contained because of that too.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like,
that's one thing is, you know, like I said, we have to mow it low. And what that does is that takes all the moisture and everything out of it, especially if you get a day or two of sunshine and wind.
Right.
And it'll light
And the
off.
thatch dries out too and becomes a
Yes.
fuel as well.
how long would it take to mow the infield to get that ready?
I can't go all the way out in the middle.
Well, no, I mean, based on where you can get.
Actually, with that 20-foot bat wing, I think this year Justin and I did it in 8 days where it used to take us 2 weeks.
So that's gonna take, in the planning schedule, that's gonna take, we gotta account for that.
That probably could be done in 4 days, I would think, with the amount that I could get to, or we could get to in there. We're not gonna be able to, like I say, get in the center. Where that tree stand is, I don't know if those are wild crepe myrtles, but they love the water. There's a pond in there just about all year long.
Yeah.
And as I get closer and closer to it, it's that black organic muck. And right now, it would be suicide taking that John Deere in there. We could lose it in there for a while till it dried out.
Yeah.
And I don't want to wait out.
Well,
But we can look at it. We'll look at it.
Yeah.
Call for a Chinook.
Yeah. And we've got a contact.
yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Seymour. I appreciate all your work with the forestry group and getting that lined up. That's really gonna be beneficial to us, and getting this burn, all the logistics worked out on that. That's just something, you know, once we get that plan in place, then it'll be easier to duplicate the following year.
Sure.
So, very good. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Craig?
I really didn't have a whole lot. I did put individual items on there, but our Fuel Master unit was received, not this previous Friday, but the Friday before. And Fuel Master did a big favor to us because we were down so long with the old unit. I was really pinging them quite often about how soon we could get the new unit up and operational. And so they ended up shipping the unit to us and allowing us to attempt to install it, which we did. We really only took a couple, 3 hours maybe at the most, take the old unit off. But there was a little bit more involved than I had anticipated. They also did not, and I'm working with them on maybe on a second quote that we might fit into another project, that we had to reuse a couple of boards down in the pedestal. And I'm not a big fan of reusing those components because I don't think they're going to last as long as what we just put in. So I'm going to work on that. But right now, everything is up and running, operational. We did have a few hiccups with a credit card type that we got sorted out, but it's been running really well.
Good.
And I just wanted to give it kind of a soft opening in terms of everyone using it before I sent an email to the tenants, say, hey, you know, woohoo, it's working. Make sure it's actually working first. So, no, I think it's been going great. And we even got an email from, I have established kind of an inside Fuel Master contact guy that I can email or call, which is excellent. He's an extremely intelligent guy that commended us on the installation. He said we did better than most of their installers would normally do in terms of no issues. But Justin, I'll tell you, Justin Crawford he's really instrumental in kind of figuring out some of the wiring because, like I said, you had to integrate these old systems with the new ones. And so it went really smoothly, and I think it'll work fine for now. You know, we have this upcoming bigger fuel project with the fuel tanks and that kind of thing. We're going to try to fit some of this stuff into that because it's of the same, I guess, subject matter, if you will.
And you're talking about the fuel cabinet, the hose reel.
Yeah, so I wanted so a matter of fact, that whole island, it appears that it was put in around 2001 because that was a vintage of the Fuel Master. And then the data plate for I call it the dispenser cabinet where you have a hose reel and all that stuff has a data tag on it that also says 2001. So I think those items have, we're beyond their useful life, really. We're just we're playing with the house's money on them. But, you know, you're also risking breakage, downtime, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's time to get that whole area updated. And we should be able to do that with DOT funding, and I just don't know a timeline on those items. So, but the Fuel Master part, I'm really happy with. Just those little items for using boards, I'm not a fan of. But right now, it's just working flawlessly. We've sold. It really is obviously highly weather dependent, but one day each weekend we did well over 100 gallons, 150 gallons each day of.
167.
There you go. So
Excellent.
So we were losing out on all of those sales on the weekends because no one was here. And that's really when we sell the most, is on the weekends and nights, it seems like. So anyways, that was good. Scott and Justin had been working on a project with a tug. Scott would be able to provide a lot more details, but it was something he acquired very cheaply, if not completely free. There was just some transmission work that they spent some time on and got resolved, and then Scott worked out a deal to sell it to.
We sold it to
Gillenson
and Gillen down there, actually Mr. Gillen. So this tug was kind of, I don't want to call it surplus, it's that green one we've had for years. It was bought from GSA, and it was probably purchased for $200 back in the day. Well, because of the new equipment we've received in our DOT grant, that thing was just sitting out there decaying in the weather. And we knew it needed a transmission seal. So, and I have to commend Justin too. He's really a good employee. There's not much that you can ask him. I didn't have to twist his arm really hard to make him pull the transmission, but we did, and we had to reinstall it several times. But anyway, the thought was, we could go out on the market, and I believe that tug was already a couple of years ago was approved for sale because we got the white tug, right, and we never did sell it. So thought about advertising it, and it was actually down at the city council meeting. I was joking around with Mr. Weeson about using a full-size GMC truck to push that MU2 in the turboprop that weighs 12,000 pounds. And Mr. Nichols is there and says, well, I thought we'd approved you selling the tug, you know. So we didn't advertise it for this reason. In the sale, if we ever need that thing, even though it becomes his personal property, we can use that thing. We could, if ours went down for some reason, we could go and borrow it. He's been generous about that. So anyway, it's no longer out there degrading. It's running, and somebody got use out of it, and we got $4,000 of income.
It's kind of like selling your chainsaw to your brother-in-law. You can still go.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Justin was very helpful on that, as he is with many things. And before you move on about your fuel master, one thing I want to say about Craig, and Rob is on board with it too, but you know, it's funny. Maria was here for years, and it doesn't mean she didn't do the best job with the tools she had. But Craig has already proven himself in his airport management, and that he has been instrumental in now using a laptop there at the counter instead of just the credit card processor. He's achieving two things. He's got point of sale, and he's also managed to digitally keep up with the inventory. And maybe you can explain that just briefly to them, how you're doing that through the Titan. Is it
Yeah.
the Titan software program?
Yeah, so in the past, it was all paper records. You'd make a sale at the point of sale machine, then you go back into Rob's office and you had 3 different clipboards, avgas, truck, it was just kind of a whole process you had to go through. And Titan Fuels, who is our distributor, has a program that you can use for free, although one of the features were kind of in a trial period as I was testing things out. But essentially, you just come in and you give the meter reading for the truck, and it calculates how much fuel you sold, what to charge them. You swipe the card, and it just digitally logs all this stuff, and you can pull a report or whatever you need to do.
Data, all that.
Because Mr. Cornegay, as he was going through this process of the Davis building experience, asked me how much fuel was Rockland buying. And at the time, all we had was paper. I had to go through each month for 6 months to figure out what that was. When in this software, you could do that in 30 seconds and have the information you need. So to keep doing that, it will cost us $50 a month, I think the fee was, but that's kind of minimal, I think, for the amount of paperwork and
Time.
yes, timing. That's exactly right. Because there was a few times after Mike left, and Rob wasn't here yet. It was Justin and myself. We were just busy, and he wasn't able to keep up with the paperwork. And man, what a nightmare that was when we finally had to do all the math and reconcile everything. So I think this is just the way to go. It's just makes everything streamlined.
Very good.
But
Good deal.
yeah, and the last couple items are actually similar to the tug, and I wanted to bring it up because I'm not exactly sure on the process as far as approval and all that stuff, but Scott and I are working on the sale of this van, and it's kind of in an area of value where you might be able to get more than the amount that we're required, where we have to accept sealed bids and all that stuff. But it's not, you may not get that actually, because there are several issues with the van that someone will have to fix if they want to use it regularly. It runs, but I think up front, there's some controls with the fan and stuff that aren't working right.
Yeah, it's got dual climatic controls, neither of which works. Whatever the temperature is outside is what it is inside the van.
A lot of cars like that coming up.
That was one of those vehicles it happened back in the 90s, and it happened again with that thing where they had bad primer and the paint's peeling and the roof's rusting.
Right, that's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
The van was used by the city as an inmate pickup, so I don't know if they gnawed on the ends of the upholstery on each trip, but so the threshold is $5,000. And we adopted the city's, anything that we think has value greater than $5,000 has to go for bid, sealed bid. And you give it a bid window or a bid opening, and then you open the bids on a certain day at a certain time with witnesses. Well, that van, if you look at the book value on it, in fair condition is only worth, I think, about $8,000 or $7,000. But because there are so many problems with it and it just continues to deteriorate, we really need, as a board, to be thinking about, and he's got some ideas about this we can talk about later, but we need to get a 4-wheel drive truck. We don't have anything here that's 4-wheel drive that can go off into these areas without getting stuck. But anyway, Craig and I talked about it, and I think we should talk about it as a board, but we thought if we went ahead and tried to get $4,500 for it, the city gifted us that van. The van actually was at my request. We had a group that was coming in here for breakfast. About 3 or 4 airplanes had come in here about once every 3 weeks, and we only had the one courtesy car. So we got the van. We thought that would be a good thing. The city gave it to us, and then the people quit coming. So the van just isn't getting used, and we could take that money and maybe the money from the tug and apply it towards a 4-wheel drive truck or whatever at some point. So anyway, that's the story with the van. Anybody that would want to inspect it, it's right out there on the ramp. It does drive, but it's pretty rough.
Yeah, and I just thought it would be a much quicker process, and we wouldn't have to put an ad in the paper, spend all the time collecting bids. You don't even know what you're going to get, really. But other than that, now we could just post it for sale, get rid of it, and be done with it, is kind of the way I was looking at it. Because it's just in that gray area where you don't know what you're going to get. And every time I get in it, I think, I don't think it's worth what Kelly Blue Book says necessarily.
That's the car you don't want to sell to anybody you're gonna know.
Right.
The other thing you run into is if you started, let's say you started a minimum opening bid of $3,000, and you say bids must be in $100 increments or $250, whatever you want, there is a chance we could get less for it.
Right.
You know.
So I don't know if there's any issues with that, but that was kind of the plan at the moment. You were maybe about to make a comment, or?
I was just gonna make a motion that we authorize Mr. Kuhn to sell it to advertise it for $4,500 and get whatever he can get for it.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussions? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right.
Hi, I'm Lorena, I'm with the firm, and due to the weather and a cat not coming in, I was a little bit late. Do we have notes about what happened with the firm appraisal? Because I was just reading about the FAA guidelines and making that available for the public, but I missed that session.
I can share it with you after, Craig and I could share it with you after the meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
All right.
And also, there's a great link about being a tree farmer to answer your question about acreage, minimum of 10,000, and it says what you have to do to be a good steward and gives you a PDF, and that might be.
Make sure Mr. Seamer gets that.
Yeah, I'll get your number. I can just send you the link, but it's always good to have a little education before you ask the person to educate you.
Yeah, sure. So the jet truck?
Well, I don't necessarily want a motion on it tonight. It was more of a discussion item, but jet truck number 1 is our old jet truck that before you got the rental from Titan that we primarily use. I see jet truck number 1 as a liability at this point. I think Rob said that Justin, he got into it. Now there's something dead sticking up the cab of it. So it's not used. The piping and everything is going to be really degraded. One thing I could do if you don't want to sell it is just 1 week a month, we'd fill it up and use it for a Rockland fueling that wasn't more than the capacity of the truck. But July 1st, 25, we are eligible for DOT. It's already been approved, monies for a new jet truck. And so I don't think that, one of the worries was that if we sell the old one and then something happens where Rockland is not around, we couldn't really afford payments for a 5,000 gallon jet truck. But I think with this grant coming available from the DOT, you do have a lead time on order, and they have to manufacture it and all that stuff. But I don't think Rockland, I think they're going to be here, and I think it's time to start thinking about getting rid of the truck. It's losing value every day when it sits there. And then we're talking about these other items that we'd love to have as a new pickup truck. Is that something
Do
that?
we have any idea what the truck is valued at? No?
It'll be quite a bit, actually.
It'll be a lot. It'll be a lot
The
more.
tankage is where the money's at, and the PTO, the drive system. When I was looking before, I think it's been about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, refurbished units of that capacity go for $130,000. Wow.
But that's with everything overhauled, new hoses, so you gotta take that into
But I
account.
think there's.
It's gonna be up near,
40 or 50,000.
oh, wait, I think 75 or more.
Yeah.
Probably.
I know I've seen them listed in Trade-A-Plane.
Yeah,
That's one of the places I've seen them before.
right.
So, I mean, I don't think that anymore, but.
But I guess my point was just as long as it sits there, it's going down every day.
Would you want to consider and maybe bring back next month to vote on if you want to
Get the value.
authorization? We'll get the value of it and then kind of the return on investment for tuning it up, replacing the hoses so that you get a little bit better stuff. Yeah.
Well, if it's
I mean, I don't know if we want to
If it was
just get rid of it or
daily,
get it ready to go and then.
It's
get
not a
it
bad
all
truck,
done.
but it's a gas engine, and one of the problems with jet fuel trucks or because those are not allowed on the highway, period. You can't go get a tag because it's not the safety issues with DOT. So the engines get carboned up. It never gets over 20 miles an hour. And it's got a big block Ford in it. It's just carbon saturated, I think. But one thing I was going to ask is, do we know how much that is? Do we already know the amount of money they're going to give us in 25?
300.
300,000?
I think it's more than enough to cover a new truck.
Okay. Because I would be concerned if we can use it and preserve it. We did put new tires on it on the rear end, I think, a couple of years ago. But I wonder if we were buying one, what the trade-in value would be on it. To somebody that would be buying from may give us a higher, I don't know. Let's say it continues to degrade.
Yeah.
But if it can be cleaned up, because I think if we do get another tanker, it needs to be at least 4,000 gallon capacity.
Oh, it would be 5. I would get a 5.
You know,
That's just the standard at any airport,
So
really.
that was going to be my next question about this, because we leased the additional truck because of the demand that we would have fueling Rockland's aircraft in a timely manner.
Right.
Because with the old truck, it was fill it up, dump that in the airplane, go back.
the farm.
You know, it's just that whole process where with 2 tankers, we didn't have that issue.
Not so
So,
much 2 tankers, but the one 5,000 gallon tanker achieves every goal when you go out.
Right.
yeah, for the future, I'm talking about though for now, with the leased tanker, if we, and I don't know what kind of time frame we're looking at, but if you get rid of Jet Truck 1, then that only leaves you the leased truck.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of capacity issue and fueling for Rockland. I know they're good about coordinating with Rob and you
Yeah.
about what their plans are for
The most they've,
fuel they need.
so in my experience so far, they have 2 options. One is a 2.5-hour flight, and actually this is ESG is the operator that's using it, but a 2.5-hour flight is 1,600 gallons. A 5-hour flight is 3,400. Sometimes they take a little bit more than that depending on what they need to accomplish, but they've never even gotten close to 5,000. So we just make sure the truck is bulked before we go and fuel them. But I mean, they probably could potentially take more than 5,000, but I think that would be such an outlier that for us to either have 2 trucks or invest in a truck that's bigger than 5, it just, none of that makes sense to me.
So we would,
So the least
we're covered though.
capacity is
Okay.
5,000?
Yes,
That's why we got it.
Well, if we get a new truck, then we don't need a lease truck anymore.
correct.
Yeah, but the other truck is 2,200 gallons, the old truck.
Yeah, and that made sense, I think, before you had ESG in Rockland, just due to your traffic and stuff like that, but
Correct.
I think the airport's outgrown that truck, and so I guess, again, it was just an idea, what do we want to do? I don't really care, but
And I think it's good to have some thought about it for sure, and it may be time to sell it.
But I don't think selling it, I guess, there's 2, Avgas is different because we have a 10,000 gallon tank and you're really cutting it close on deliveries in terms of how low you want to go before you order and not run out. The jet tank is 12,000. And so a standard load of jet that we can get is 8,000 gallons. And so you've got enough headroom there that's not, we don't need extra storage to be in that scenario where we're gonna run out or anything like that. So from my standpoint, operationally, fueling and storage of fuel, to me, it's not even a factor, but maybe there's something that I don't know about that hasn't come up yet.
I think you're dead on.
So you want to bring back, I don't know if it has to be next month, I don't know what kind of time frame you're looking at, but you want to look at all of those different feasibilities of whether, how much do we want to, what would it cost us to upgrade it enough to sell it? And then what kind of estimate you think we would put on it as far as a sell price?
I think Scott had a good idea too, maybe on the trade-in, what's that look like?
And look at that as well.
Well,
Whether it's upgraded to or whether it's as is.
I need to know too what a new 5,000 gallon truck is going for today. And then hope this inflation is gonna start reversing.
Right.
I mean, is that 300,000? That sounds like a lot of money. Is that gonna be enough for a brand new 5,000 gallon tanker?
I think it is enough. I did some searching a few weeks ago, just when I was thinking about all of this process, and I think they're about 250. But I talked with Bill today about some of these smaller projects, such as the Fuel Master, the fuel dispenser, the fuel truck. These are projects that are just almost direct replacements. And so he doesn't necessarily want to be involved where that raises the project cost for us to have them do the work.
Right.
So as long as we get the DOT to sign off on here's our plan, and as long as they're okay with it, he's fine with us just doing what we need to do. So I don't think we would overspend 300,000, but it would be something I would double check for sure.
Okay.
So I can come back next month with some more, information and options on that, and then we'll decide from there. But that's all I have, really.
All right.
Could you tell them a little bit about your jet fuel sales, especially with
Yeah,
geological survey?
I contemplated bringing that up because our financials are actually from November, and you're going to really see it next month when we run the financial report. But ESG really, I think, had an uptick in their flights, and then we also, back in, I think it was the end of November, I got a call from Excalibur is the name of the company, and they operate many different aircraft, but the one here is a Cessna Caravan. That has the boom on it. I'm sure everyone's heard about it by now, but they were flying for a while, doing 2 flights a day and taking approximately 300 gallons every time we would fill them. And so they bought just from December 11th to, I think it was maybe the end of December, because I gave you that number, like 4,400 gallons of gas. And so we did have a lot of overtime in terms of servicing them, because when they had more crew, they would come and do a fill up in the middle of the day, and then they would go out and be here past 5:30 or 5 o'clock. And then they were flying on the weekends. If the weather's good, they fly on the weekends. But when I made this agreement with them, there's in the past, in my experience, there's 2 different ways to deal with overtime and servicing aircraft. Either one, you charge them a call out fee if it's just something small and it's not going to make you a lot of money. But I asked questions like how much were they buying and these kinds of things. And I just thought the overall picture of them being here was worth, I don't want to charge them ramp fees, call out fees. I think it's well worth us and the board and the airport to just service them, and we just cover the cost of overtime essentially. So yeah, we bought 3 loads of fuel in December. So each load being 8,000 gallons, it's 24,000 gallons of gas we pumped.
Yeah, those fuel cells have well exceeded any of the overtime cost, and I agree with you. No ramp fee and the other things that we've helped them out with. It's kind of funny. I got a call from a friend of mine, and he described this airplane that was flying over his property, and did I know anything about it? Recognized it. He said, "Oh, great, I'm glad." He said, "I was getting ready to call the sheriff's department, and I had several other people in Stark see the airplane because they're flying really low."
They have a waiver because you have a lower limit altitude that you can fly over vessels, structures, people. So they fly at 300 feet, and they do have an FAA waiver because the FAA called here asking from their complaints. So anywhere these guys fly, they get phone calls. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, I mean, the Caravan's, beautiful airplane, but this one has a boom that goes out the back up at an angle. It's not straight back in line with the fuselage, so that makes it even a little different, more different than what you would typically see, and it's flying so low.
Yeah, I could see why it would generate, interest. I know. So, yeah, I think most of the complaints or questions get forwarded to the FAA, and they were now working. You would think this company might, just as a forethought, go and contact the FSDO that their area they're working in and give them all that information. But I think by now they've all figured it out. There's no issues. But I expect they should be here. It really depends on the weather, and now they've cut down their flight crew in half. They only have 2 or 3 pilots and only doing 1 flight a day. But there was a map that Scott put out on Facebook that showed the area that they need to cover, and it's quite large in the northeast section of Florida. I suspect that they'll probably be here until the end of February.
Doing survey flights?
Great,
Yeah.
that's great.
But, and that's my goal, is to keep them here. They were in Ocala, and Ocala was charging them for everything, ramp, storage.
Lighting fee.
Oh, yeah, anything that they could charge for. And I think that's a benefit that we can provide, is there's such little cost and overhead for us to service them. Now, it may become, as their work moves further north, it may become financially better for them to move up to an airport further north, but I'm going to try to not have that happen if we can.
Longer, yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's been a great contact, been very beneficial to the airport, so
Yeah.
thank you, Craig, for doing that, making that contact. Anything else for you?
I have nothing. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no.
Mayor said she was going to try to make it tonight, but she didn't. So we'll move on from that. Any board member comments?
I have some comments. I have an issue that I think we need to address, that I think is kind of an important thing, and there's not being a lot said about it, and that kind of, I think it just needs to, we need to put it out and discuss it if we have a few minutes.
Does it need to, is it going to require a vote?
No,
Okay,
I don't think it is.
okay.
The December 19th event that took place out here, kind of curious as to the reason why we weren't notified as a board that we were going to have important dignitaries here. Tallahassee with the Commerce Secretary. From the information that was provided, both, we all know that this airport straddles 2 counties. And it was important enough that the newspaper put it on the front page of both of their newspapers. This is how I find out that, and probably all of us found out that this event. I know you were part of the event. I don't know, and I'm kind of curious as to why information didn't go out and that we were notified, as well as, and I don't know their opinion of it, but even with the city of Keystone Heights, with them, because I believe with the city council, the mayor, as well as all of us board members, we're all stakeholders in things that happen, and especially when you have an important day like that, where you have the Commerce Secretary or any dignitary coming from Tallahassee to come out here. It gives a bad impression. It makes us look as if we just don't care, or other people don't care, and I just kind of wanted to address that and find out how that kind of went about, and why the notification didn't go out to the rest of us.
Good question. Scott Cornegay, Bradford County Manager, had been contacted by Secretary of Commerce and wanted to come out because it tied back to MHD's interest in leasing the Davis building. Secretary of Commerce, his staff had notified Mr. Cornegay that, hey, we're going to be there. He got short notice, and at the very first, it was like, we don't want to make this a big deal. We're just coming out. We want to just see the operation. They didn't make it a big public event. And we got a very, very short notice. I mean, literally, I think it was either the morning of or maybe the evening before. And so That's how that came about.
I mean, it was big enough public event that the newspaper covered it.
Oh, yeah.
And put it on both pages, you know, and as a member of this airport, when this is how I find out, and, you know, I know not a lot's being said about it, and that's the other thing that's a little concerning, because I know it wasn't even brought up last night in the airport report to city council. So if it wouldn't have come out this way, we wouldn't even known it even happened. And to me, I think that's a kind of a concern that needs to be addressed as far as us working together as a board and being involved anytime. And whether or not it's a big thing, and who knows who can make it and who can't. The fact that, you know, that if we are at least aware and know that it's happening, I mean, for there to be, you know, according to the newspaper, there was business owner from Bradford County, you know, the officials from Tallahassee, and like I said, I know obviously you got the notification. You know, it would have been nice to know and have that information, and is there something that we need to do differently that can be done, that includes all of us, just in case if that's an opportunity. Again, I believe as a board, you know, we all have, you know, we need to represent this airport equally together. So I just, you know, is there something that needs to be done differently about that?
Can I address for a moment?
Well, we had no say-so in the scheduling. That was done by the secretary's office, and that was coordinated with the Bradford County manager. So other than us being notified that they were going to show up here, and basically they stayed in this lobby for about 5 minutes, and then they spent the rest of their time over at MHT Rockland. So given that, and the fact that they didn't want it really publicized, it would have been the secretary's responsibility, his office, if he wanted it to be a public notice of some sort, then that'd be his responsibility to make that happen. So
They didn't want to publicize. Who told the Bradford County and the, you know, who?
I don't know.
That's the point I'd like.
Check with Mr. Cornigan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, he didn't initiate this.
No, I'm not saying he initiated, but once you got the notification, why that?
He got it that morning. I think you got it that morning. No, I just saw him.
This needs to go out to the rest of the board because we have officials coming in from Tallahassee. This is
And
kind of,
here's the other issue too we've got, Bobby. We have to be careful because of sunshine.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
wouldn't be able to call you.
we could all,
you can call me personally, but notifying and saying, we need to put an email out to the rest of the board. That's not breaking the sunshine rule there, and as well as the city officials. And again, I have no idea where they stand on this, but they're just as much of a stakeholder at this airport too. And I would imagine.
because they own it.
Right.
But again, we had nothing to do with coordinating that and setting that up at all.
So I get what he's saying. I would have got big time tongue lashing if I'd have had a congressman or a secretary of state roll into Clay County and not inform the school board. I get where you're coming from. I'm not the best about checking the airport email every day. So even if you'd emailed it, I don't know that I would have got it, but nothing in the sunshine law. And I think this would just be something, I texted Craig before I came out, and then I went back, I'm like, dummy, you got Gmail on your phone, you should have just looked at it. Because you already addressed whether we were meeting or not tonight. But maybe put all of us on a text thread, and if you do find out something last minute, we can't come, fine, but nothing would prevent you or you from just blasting out, hey, we just found out last night or this morning, Secretary of State or Commerce or whoever it was will be here noon today if you want to come.
And I agree. I think that's a good idea. If we can do that, if we can have like just a text thing, not for us to sit there and chat all the time, whatever, but if something important comes up, because I'm the same way. I'll see a text way quicker than I'll see an email. So that would be something that could be beneficial to that. And that's the other thing. I mean, we have an intergovernmental guy, not that I was trying to advocate more work for Mr. Van Zandt there, but you know, at the time, I mean, that's what he specializes in, and he's not even made aware of it, you know, and that's what I'm saying. I think that's kind of a big thing that was kind of a missed opportunity, for us all to be able to represent if possible.
The reason I wanted to say something is I was here that day. They came in, I had to ask Craig who they were, and Craig didn't even know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, you couldn't have done anything. You couldn't have jumped out of an airplane and gotten here quick enough. They were in here and out.
They weren't here very long, I will.
And I asked Craig, I said, well, what? I said, you're the new airport manager. And he says, I know. And he wasn't complaining, but it was this delegation came in and, you know, you could say I kind of felt a little slighted too, like
So
I'm
these
nobody.
folks already
was
knew about
just-
it.
It was a whirlwind.
I mean,
you
it
know?
was pre-planned enough, like I said, for the amount of people.
It was pre-planned by other people.
Yeah, but
Not by this man, not by me, not by
one
him.
of our people had that information, and that's all I'm saying.
When did he have it though?
Well, whenever, I mean,
You'd have just been happy to know after the fact then,
not,
that it
it would
happened.
be nice to know what's going on out here.
But after the fact,
Really, before the fact.
I'm telling you, he found out that morning as far as I knew. I mean,
Yeah.
do you think when he was out clipping his yard in his shorts and his gloves and all that, that he didn't have to run in and take a shower real quick and get in a suit? That's how quick it happened as far as I know.
Well, the biggest thing is
'Cause-
just having information forthcoming, because again, it goes back to that saying, you don't know what you don't know. You know,
Well,
and
if
you're
it's
not
possible,
made
yeah.
aware, you know.
Yeah, if it's
And,
possible.
and that's a pretty big deal, because we're looking at, you know, that's the largest tenant out here. There's a lot of things that are going on with that. And I understand that's the big, you know, the biggest thing for that whole event was with the warehouse. But, you know, that does include what's happening out here as well. And again, I think we're all part of that as stakeholders of this, you know, of this, as well as the city of Keystone Heights. And I just wanted to bring that out because I think it's something that from this point forward, we just all need to be aware, whether people can attend or not, it's at least everybody's on the same page and understands and know what's going on.
Well, first of all, we've always done that. Where we had the information ahead of time that we could notify all of those different entities, we've done that. That's been our normal process. I'm just telling you, this happened quick, and if you want specifics, I'd suggest you call Mr. Cornegay, and he can fill you in with the details of what he was told from the secretary's office.
Like I said, this is to open up the newspaper and to see that and like, wow, we're part of that airport. I don't even know that's even going on. It's just kind of a little bit of,
You're offended?
well, I hate to use that word.
I think you are. I think you're offended.
Because, you know, it's,
I mean, it is. It's kind of, you're like slighted, but what is he to do? What is anybody to do?
well,
Well, in this particular instance, it sounds like that even if the information would have gone out, it still would have been after the fact in this particular case. But, yeah, anytime that it's possible to put that information out before the event occurs, I mean, it
And
happens.
we do that.
Yeah. Now, to kind of piggyback on that, just briefly, just as a point of information, I'm going to participate at the high school next month
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
with MHD Rockland and with some folks from Florida State College at their college and career day. So to kind of,
We skipped you. I apologize for that. That was an update you had.
that's okay, I'm not.
Was that
Mad about
Keystone,
that.
Keystone Airport?
Keystone High School.
I mean, high.
High school.
High school.
What day and time, do you know?
February 2nd,
February the 2nd, early in the morning, like 7:30.
So you're gonna be in the Embry-Riddle classroom?
No.
No, in the
Be in the gym.
gymnasium.
Oh,
So they're gonna have,
so the aviation program guy should be bringing kids to you.
well, it's where they're gonna have representatives from lots of different entities, all scattered about in the gymnasium. And the high schoolers will be able to come and see everybody.
He's talking, Mr. Van Zanden's talking about at the Keystone Heights High School, there is a person that's designated as being
Oh, I know
the
that, yeah,
aviation person.
right.
And he always brings his kids. All the kids come. I mean, they bring, I think the seniors and juniors go first, and then they bring sophomore and freshmen in.
Yeah.
So it's a full morning.
Okay, well, good.
Yes.
How about the kid from Stark that was coming?
I have been working with a senior at Bradford County High School. Yeah, he was in Stark. Given a little experience in aviation maintenance. And I hope to connect with Todd over at MHC Rockland tomorrow to line up getting him connected over there, because I've already spoken to him, And he would really be glad to give him an opportunity to get some experience with the big airplane as well.
Okay.
And so I'm still in contact with them. So they're anxious to get him some more time this year.
Get him
So he's expressed interest in that career field, and so far he says he enjoys it. That's good.
Good.
Excellent.
So I'm hoping that this is going to, this one student experience will lead over into other areas of that school and Stark.
That'd be great. We've been trying to get that done for years and even get the local high school out here more often than what they've been. So all we can do is keep asking, keep
Right.
inviting.
Yeah.
And if I can, just because I kind of got sidetracked off of that, my only request is that from this point forward in the future, if there's any big event that's going on where we have important people that are coming to this airport, even on short notice, if information can go out, even very short notice, that information goes out. So all members of the board, as well as city council and the mayor's office, have that notification, that's all I request.
As I've said, that's what we've done in the past. We'll just keep doing what we've done in the past. I will tell you that there are times when FDLE contacts us and says, hey, the governor's coming in, don't tell anybody. So in that case, I'm not going to tell anybody.
Right, and in that situation, that's a different situation.
Okay,
I get that,
I just want
and
that
I think most
understanding.
people understand that as far as security concerns and that kind of thing, but
Where do you draw the line on the cutoff, though? Because
I don't really draw the line on the cutoff. It's like if
I saw
something,
on,
one of us finds out.
I saw on the city council meeting that Dan Lewandowski, and I did see the kids that were brought out here. Do you want to be notified about that?
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, he's a city council member.
Right.
Coming to the airport.
Well, you can do that. I mean,
Just
that way we always know
VIPs?
what's going on
I
out
mean,
here.
is it just VIPs?
It can be anything. That's actually a good question, and I think that's a good idea. Any event that's going on out here, as far as anytime we have people
If a field
visiting,
trip comes out here.
people that are visiting, that way people know. If somebody wants to come out and participate
Okay.
in it, then I think it's not gonna hurt anything. It's just an email out to the board or
Yep.
a quick text out to the board.
Now, how does that work as far as sunshine law? As long as, if we all gather out here, as long as we don't speak to each other, we're legal because we didn't give 72
We can all
hours
go
notice?
to Laredo's and have dinner right now. You just can't talk about something that we could plausibly ever vote on.
Correct,
Right, okay.
correct. It's the appearance, and when I made my comment about referencing sunshine law, it's just the appearance. You're right, we could all go do that, but
Technically,
somebody
you
is going to
can.
say, yeah, you see all them
The whole
guys?
board was together out at the airport,
But,
and it wasn't a published meeting.
right,
That's what I'm getting at, is
I'm
where
not
do you
saying
draw
it's
the
the
line?
best practice, I'm just saying,
I agree.
when the investigator comes,
I hear what you're saying.
we were talking
I'll say
about tacos.
personally, just the thing that Craig was able to set us up on there with the NOTAMs, I like that. I really like knowing and seeing it because it gives me an idea. I can't be here every single day, you're very fortunate that you have that, that you can do that. And it's nice to be able to know kind of things that are happening because again, we all have something going on out here that we're a part of this
Well,
and it's
that's what
just
I'm
nice to
telling
know
you. I
what's
was
going
here
on.
and I didn't know what was going on. So you imagine you felt awkward
And I
reading the paper
understand
later.
that
I'm
can
like, who
happen
are all these
sometimes,
people?
but I just think, from this point, if it's possible, by all means, if information goes out.
That way you don't get blindsided, so to speak, or whatever, and it does give you the opportunity if you want to come out.
We'll continue to do as we've always done. We can notify, we will notify. We've always done it that way. Any other comments? All right, we'll consider ourselves adjourned at 7:34. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Tina.